Welcome to What's Up, Bolts. I'm Fernando Ramirez, and that cowboy hat donning, sunglass wearing, son of a gun must be Dan and Diego.
Woo!
I'm still a little bit under the weather, trying to deal with it. Everybody else in the house as well, except for Dan and Diego. Dan and Diego's the only one. He's a
What are you talking about?
survivor.
You're talking about everyone in the house is not well. They are
No, I know they're all.
terrible.
Everyone
They
else in
are
the house
all
is.
sick. Your boy over here is made of steel. Can't touch this, dude. Ice in my veins.
Yeah, so there you go. So Dan and Diego's isolated himself from everybody. Obviously, big weekend ahead, Dan. Chargers going to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. Obviously, the last time that they played in Las Vegas, it didn't go their way. The Chargers ended up fighting back. I think they completed 7 of 9, or 8 of 9, no, 8 of 10 or something like that, and 4 downs. The Justin Herbert was a machine at the end of the game. And obviously there was a playoff berth on the line. The Chargers end up losing. Raiders end up kicking that field goal to win the game. So obviously that's not on the Chargers' mind at all. They don't care about that. They care about what's happening moving forward. What's happening moving forward is the Chargers right now sit at 6-5. They have an opportunity to make the playoffs. Now they have the Buffalo Bill or the New York Jets have the 7th seed, and this weekend they have a tough game. Then they also have the New England Patriots ahead of them with the 8th seed, and the Patriots play the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football. So it's an interesting scenario the Chargers are in. Potentially, if the Chargers play their cards right, they could be one step closer to that playoff spot this weekend if they could beat the Raiders. That's ands, ifs, or buts, obviously.
Almost
But
only counting horseshoes and hand grenades, Frau.
but the Raiders ever since oh, by the way, special guest today. We have one of our compas, one of our good friends, Adam Hill,
Love that
Las
guy.
Vegas Review Journal. He
God,
jumps on, he talks to us. It's funny. we started
love
off
that guy.
we started off talking about something completely different and end up we talk football in the middle, and then at the end we start talking World Cup. So it's like a mixture of different things all around. But Adam Hill's a great guy. He knows everything going on. He even gave us a little tidbit about why Derek Carr was crying. Potentially why Derek Carr was crying after the game against the Colts. And by the way, ever since that happened, the Raiders are now 2-0. They really figured out what their bread and butter is. Hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs. The last 2 games he's had over almost 500 yards of offense. He leads the league right now in rushing yards. So something's working for them, Dan, right now, and they're playing some good football in the last 2 weeks.
You said it best, Frau. It is a huge weekend this weekend. We got a little USA at 7 a.m. on Saturday. Boy, I am hyped. But that's all right. We don't need to talk about USA soccer with the freaking next GOAT coming out. I'm excited. Cannot wait to see how it goes. I'm so hyped. Look at your face. Already drinking that haterade, just like you were in the
USA soccer fans are potentially the worst
Haterade.
fans I've ever met. At least Mexico is like, yeah, we're just gonna make it we're not even gonna make it out of the group, whatever. USA fans really think they're gonna make it all the way, and they think they have the next Ronaldo on their team, which
We're waiting
is
for
not
2026. We need a new head coach who's not going to sit back and play defensive. We're Americans, baby. We always go on the attack. We know one speed, and that's
yeah.
forward.
Okay, nobody cares about that. That's more for combat for Gombas FC. By the way, check it out. Gombas FC new episode coming out.
I'm plugging.
No, you're not plugging. You're plugging your crap. I'm not all for that. But yeah, it's a big weekend for the Chargers this weekend. Talk about more about
weekend,
that,
right? Because we little inside baseball. We talked to Derwin at his event about that. He said, real quick, you could be 8-5 at some point. There's a lot of winnable games in the back half of this schedule and everything else. So, it's like we always talk about, Frown, right? The biggest thing that sometimes that is so misunderstood, not only in games, but in seasons, that it's like you have these slight little windows, these slight little moments where it's like, hey, oh, dang. Now's the time to start separating myself from my opponents. Now's the time to start taking over in this game. Now's the time to start separating yourself from these wild card teams. Because if you look at their records, they're not that far off from the Chargers. So it's very possible, it's very plausible But in my mind, playoff football has already started. You cannot lose any of these games coming up, especially you cannot lose in conference games because those are always the tiebreakers. You can't get into another situation where it's win and you're in because God forbid, don't need
Chargers
another
were
week in the
Chargers were in a similar spot last year. They were 8-5 going into that game against the
the two last ones, I think,
yeah,
right?
going up against the Chiefs. They were 8-5, one game separating them from the division title.
Yeah.
Then they ended up losing they ended up losing 3 out of their last 4, and then they ended up missing the playoffs.
And real quick, my bad. You brought up the one from last year in Vegas. That, in my mind, is the full potential of this offense. The comeback, obviously, not the debacle we saw in the first 3 quarters. That, in my mind, is that is this offense firing on all cylinders. Keenan Allen, Mike, Josh, everybody freaking just eating because they want to be dogs. Roof.
It sounds like Mike Williams is going to be more of a game time decision heading into Sunday. They're going to need him. The Chargers are going to need to run the football. They're going to need to do a lot of stuff on defense. You know what? Honestly, right now, we're gonna go a little old school and have Dan and Dago teach us a thing or two about a thing or two. You don't need to go to school to learn. All you have to do is just stay here and learn from Dan and Dago because they reminded us in Mr. Deeds.
Don't worry, I got you.
What are you gonna do with your $20,000? Buy a giraffe. What are you gonna do with your $20,000? Quit school.
Good idea. School is for fools. Look at me.
That's a freaking classic.
So let's go now and see what Dan.
I got you. No worry, Coach Dan, Teacher Dan is in the house.
Dan, we're gonna go first and learn about Josh Jacobs and the way this offensive line has been blocking for him. Here's a play for Josh Jacobs. So if you want to break it down, I'm going to start it right now.
Here we go. Look at that. I already don't like. Oh, okay. That's the flea flicker. Yeah, I remember this. That freaking, you see that left guard just get absolutely bullied. That's why there was so much penetration. And he freaking had that guy got a hand on Josh. It was just a beautifully designed play, right? This was a flea flicker touchdown that they had. Devontae Adams commands a double team, gets and just leaves the middle of the field open for, I think his name's Hollins, right? Hollins?
Yeah, Mac Hollins.
Mac Hollins on the
watch him release late, Dan. He's down here. He's right here, Mac Hollins. Watch him go in and block.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a beautifully designed play. Because look, the linebacker kind of starts reading it, or whoever was right there, but he just didn't notice him leak out.
I love Devontae Adams is kind of like Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson when Steph Curry shoots a 3, just already pointing up his hand. But
exactly. And that's a beautifully designed play, right? And that's what I think the problem sometimes with these teams who don't have the best offensive lines. They fail to understand how to work these type of shot plays in, because there's nothing wrong with having 6-7 defenders on the line of scrimmage blocking. Mind you, they have to be competent or else the play is worthless. But if you have those guys and you just have guys running around, they're going to come open at some point, dude. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, give us this one. This one is a Josh Jacobs run.
Okay, here we go. Is this
It's a pitch.
Oh, let's see. Do we seal the edge? Yeah, look how the edge is sealed right there, right? You see the guard and the tackle working towards this linebacker right here. There was probably a crack block or something, but the edge is sealed, and he's just cutting back from it now because they're washing him down. Oh, although this guy was super behind his guy. Josh Jacobs is just running like a madman. Look at that, dude. Look how the vision, the patience he has to get out of there. That is just insane, dude. Because look, the tackle right here, they double team this guy to the linebacker, 57 over there. I just don't like. I think 72 took a bad angle. That's why
you know he flagged, huh? Right here, he could have gotten flagged. Watch
the block in the back. Yeah,
watch exactly. 71 come on here. 71 right there. Look, he blocks him in the back.
Called that a block in the back, 100%. Yeah,
but I mean, it's a good play by Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, that's what people don't understand. If you just throw your hands up like a pick play in or a screen in basketball or whatever, that's not blocking the back. You're good to go. Let's see. We got a little pass pro. Oh, look at Carr thinking he's elite. Oh, handoff. Look at the mesh right there. Oh, nice. Nice. Go back. I think was there a puller? Always got to lean into this so I can see it. Oh yeah, there's a puller. Look at that, dude. That's probably like a counter, getting outside or an outside zone with a puller. That was real nice. You see how he seals the edge right there? That's what gives him the extra yardage of separation right here. Let's see. Let's watch this guy pull. Oh no, it's a different play. Look, this is beautiful. That's inside zone right there. I love just watching the carcasses just drive across for the cutback. You see that little pocket they create? It's so beautiful, dude. I mean, mind you, I'm not a Raider fan by any means, but I just love watching good offensive line play. Look, watch. Here comes the pocket real quick. They just all collapse down. And the pocket's being created right there where they already have 3 yards guaranteed as long as everybody stays on
not
the
just
clock.
that. Watch how many extra yards he gets by pushing.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing, too. Yeah, you got to fall forward. Yeah, you have to fall forward. Now, offensive lineman, you got to push the pile.
Here's another play.
Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Oh, pass pro. Pass pro. That's not bad by the tackle. That's not bad. I personally don't like it when they turn their hips so quickly.
Caught it with one hand.
Yeah, you always want to kick for depth.
That's where he's improved. That's where I feel like Josh Jacobs has improved this year. It's been in the pass game. Here, let's look at this play now.
Let's see. I wonder if this is the one that won the game. Oh, here we go. Derek Carr thinking he's elite. Let me point at somebody so they take a photo of me and it looks really badass. I don't like the way that guard's giving up so much penetration. That guy kind of got stiffed out right there. Just great patience and vision by Josh Jacobs, honestly. He's turned it around, and it makes you wonder what John Gruden did that made him look not as good and what Josh McDaniel's doing that's making him look this good now. Oh, yeah, here's the game winner right here.
Watch the fullback on this play. I think he's the one that opens it up. I think that's what Adam Hill told me.
I'm telling you, dude, fullback.
Oh, yeah, look.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that.
And look, not even touched.
Yeah. Fullbacks are a beautiful part of the game, especially when you have elite ones like Kyle Juszczyk and the like. Ricard is really good out of Baltimore. You know, and this just brings me back to the same thing where that stooge, that scumbag tells me I'm outdated and a dinosaur. It can be done, dude. That's the way you win games. That's the way you control the clock. The run game, in my mind, is way more important than the pass game. You've got to be able to control the clock. I was talking about this with Coach Torres the other day when we went out to go get a meal. The thing that's so demoralizing about, run games or run heavy offenses is that it's coming. And when you can't stop it, it's literally demoralizing to a defense because not only are you wearing them down physically, you're wearing them down mentally because they know what's coming at them and they can't stop it either because they're not reading the right things. They're not filling the right holes, or just quite frankly, they're not being physical enough to stop the run game.
So right now, we're gonna take a pause from Dan looking at film. We're gonna go now to Adam Hill and learn a little bit more about this Raiders team and kind of what's been behind them winning these last few weeks. Is it really Raiders week if we don't have our good compa, Las Vegas Review-Journal reporter Adam Hill joining us? I would say that he's a Raiders reporter, but he also covers UFC. He covers everything in Las Vegas. If it's there, he's on the scene. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, Pac-12 championship game this week too at Allegiant Stadium.
Oh, that's true. Are you going to be USC Utah?
It's USC somebody. I think so. Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Who you got?
It is. It's USC Utah. A lot of sharp people really like Utah in this game, but
wow.
I feel like Caleb's going to seal the Heisman and do something. Although I'm always for total chaos. That's what I want in college football all the time is total chaos, and that's all I care about. So hopefully TCU loses, USC loses, even my beloved – I am from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I love Michigan. I am so happy about this season and think we actually have a chance to win a title. And I still want Purdue to win the Big Ten championship because I want such chaos. I just want chaos in college football. That's all I care about.
So, let me ask you like this. Say that Jim Harbaugh has the perfect season, wins it all. Do you think he tries to make the jump back into the NFL?
I don't know. I mean, the Colts make sense for sure with Harbaugh, but I just feel like he's kind of found a home. Like he's sat there forever. He's got it humming at such a level right now. They're back to just getting every 5-star recruit they want. They're winning every year. 2 in a row against that one team that plays in that one state south of us.
And it kind of seems like that's his like he's found a good place to be at.
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's where he started. It's Michigan family, and there was a time a couple of years ago where people were kind of over it, but that's gone away, and I think a lot of people have forgotten that. I was never on that. I was always for keeping Harbaugh around. So he's made it pay off, and they're getting the rewards now, and I think he could stay there as long as he wants and just be happy. And it just makes sense. He's seen what it's like in the NFL. He's seen when people kind of get meddle in what you're trying to do. That's what his big problem was really in the NFL was, upper management and ownership and other people getting involved. He can run his own program and do it the way he wants to. So I think he loves it there.
So he has the Adam Hill stamp of approval. That's all he needs, really. So There you go. But Adam, talk to us about the Raiders. It feels like it's been a real up and down season. I mean, they win a couple of games and they lose a couple. Obviously I got to start here. Ever since Derek Carr did that whole crying thing after they lost to the Colts, they're 2-0. Did that kind of flip a switch in them that has had them kind of roll in the last 2 games?
Well, that's an easy narrative for sure. From the outside to say, hey, look, Derek Carr cried after the game and they've won every game since then. And then that's true. It's factually correct. But I think it's what led to Derek Carr crying. That really is what changed this around. That was after the loss to the Colts. I know some of what happened in the locker room after the game, but not enough to, go on record with anything. So I'll just say something happened in the locker room after the game that was not pretty. And I don't think it was like a physical altercation. I think it's just kind of guys expressing how they felt and kind of going at each other and airing out a lot of stuff that was going on. And I think that's what led to Derek Carr having his little moment, his emotional moment up on the podium, because like he left the locker room where it was very tense. And I can tell you it was, you walk into a room and you're like, oh, something just happened here.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was like in the locker room. And then Derek Carr goes on stage and cries and lets it all out. But I think it wasn't really a result of the loss. I think it was more of whatever happened in that locker room. But I also think that kind of galvanized some guys a little bit and, sent the message. Now, is it for the best in the long run? I would say no, because they've gone from the 2nd pick in the draft to the 9th pick in the draft now. And, every win affects their draft position, but players don't care about that. Players want to win. They want to go out and compete. And, the funny thing is not, I've said this is ironic. I don't think ironic is the right term, but, Derek Carr, by winning these games, makes it so they probably can't get one of the top quarterbacks in the first round, which might in turn save his job. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But it's really what's going on right now.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like it. So obviously Tom Pelissero tweeted out, I think it was Tuesday morning, hey, Josh Jacobs might not practice at all this whole week. They're going to be nursing. I think he has a hamstring or calf. So obviously that he almost didn't play on Sunday. He plays and he has over 300 yards of offense. How serious is this calf strain if he just had a game where he had over 300 yards of offense and 2 touchdowns?
It's one of those things like Josh Jacobs every year that he's been here he runs so hard, he plays so hard on Sunday that his body is just beaten up. Like I can't remember a game before this season that he started a game and finished a game without ever, coming out, going into the tent, getting checked out by trainers. Like there's always something, and that's not a shot at him. It's more just a commentary on his style that's just so physical and so demanding that he's put his body through just hell the last couple of years. And we know that's what running backs do. And it's been bad. And this year he's fought through a lot. He won't come out of the game. He won't ask for a sub. 2 weeks ago, he had every carry that the offense had. Nobody else had a touch out of the backfield, which is wild. And that's just what he's doing. Now, the cynic might say, hey, he's playing for a contract. So he's doing all this to try to get a contract with either the Raiders or somebody. And that's fair because it is a contract season. It's something we haven't seen out of him before, but he's certainly on a mission. There's no question about it. And I think maybe any other year, if the team was 3-7 and he was hurt the way he was hurt on Sunday, he probably wouldn't have played. And again, that's not a shot at him. That's what you got to do. He's doing what he has to do, and he knows, he knows what he's working toward, and we'll see how this continues to play out. But I think that's a game he may have missed in previous seasons, but he knows what's at stake, and he's going to try to go as hard as he can. I'll say I don't think the Raiders will practice at all on Wednesday. It's kind of something they've been doing after wins. They just have a walkthrough, and they don't practice in full. They don't put the pads on, so he probably won't have to go through anything anyway. But yeah, I think they're going to get him as much rest as they possibly can.
And you expect him to play on Sunday?
Yeah, I would. I think it's unless they have to cut the leg off. I think he's going to go. Look, again, he wants to keep this going, and he knows what's out there at the end of the year. It's either the Raiders or somebody is going to have to pay him a lot of money to play football next year, and he doesn't want to do anything to damage that.
Do you think it's a motivation as well of like he hasn't lived up to not the hype, but he hasn't lived up to his first round billing, injuries. He had to play in that Hall of Fame game in preseason. Do you feel like all that has kind of gone into maybe this season? I mean, right now he's leading the league in rushing yards.
Yeah. No, I think in the past he actually has played very well. I mean, the rushing yards is such an old school way of thinking about things, and I know it's important. And you're pointing out he's leading the league in rushing yards right now, but it's things like yards after contact and yards gained above expected and things like that, which are some of the more advanced stats would tell you that broken tackles, like Josh Jacobs has been near the top every single year. There's been other factors, as you mentioned, injuries. He's missed games every season. The offensive line has been terrible for the most part over his career the last couple of years. So there's a lot of other things that have gone into it. He's playing at a high level, and the offense is clicking at a pretty high level around him too. So it's helping that pure rushing yard number. But for the most part, his advanced metrics have said that he's been a very good player his entire career. It's just that running backs don't matter, and it sucks to say that. And there are guys that do. I mean, I think Josh Jacobs, if you're going to say there's some running backs that do matter, I think he's in that category that does. I think the Chargers have one in Austin Eckler because of what he does as a receiver. That matters. But for the most part, guys that aren't dynamic out of the backfield in terms of being a pass catcher and a pass protector for their quarterback, guys that just take handoffs and run for the most part, unless they're very, very unique. Derrick Henry comes to mind, or the pass catchers like a McCaffrey or an Eckler. Like those guys matter, and those guys are going to get paid. But for the most part, I think most teams have come to the conclusion that running backs just don't. It sucks for them. I've proposed this before. I think there should be a different salary structure for running backs. That they should get paid a lot sooner, because if teams are going to just beat them down and wear them out and then not pay them at the end of their rookie deals, that's trash. And it's the right thing to do for a team, because that you don't care about the player, you care about your team and your franchise. But it sucks for running backs, and I wish they would figure something out about it. But for right now, like the way it's structured with salary cap and the way it is, that's what we're going to deal with.
I propose that the quarterback shouldn't be a part of the salary cap, especially with how
ridiculous.
Big.
I actually just had this argument with somebody the other day. That is the dumbest thing ever. Because it's so dumb, because there is such an advantage to having a quarterback on a rookie deal right now. There is.
Oh, 100%.
And you can build around them. And then you have to make the decision. Do we pay money? How do we allocate resources going forward? Do we pay a quarterback, or do we move on and get another quarterback on a rookie deal and pay guys around him to have a better team around him? And that decision of how to allocate your resources
makes you if you're a good GM or not.
Yeah, it's what determines like where your franchise goes. Like it's so important, and I that's what I love about the structure. I could go really deep on
during the combine, and I know it pissed you off, so that's why I said it right now. I remember somebody during the combine had blurted that out, and you're like, "Well, that is such a dumb idea." I'm like, I'm going to throw it at him right now.
It's so dumb. But actually, I have a friend who claims to just hate the NFL in general. He doesn't like football, which I think he's full of it, but it's his running thing. Every time I post, a practice Instagram story or something from a game, he's like, "Oh, you have to watch football every day. How miserable!" But I think he's just trolling a little bit. But he was saying, the salary cap ruins it for me, because players are just moving everywhere, and it's just a game of who can fit the most guys under the cap, and not a game of who the best team is or who can find the most talent and that sort of thing. I said, that's what I like. I like teams not being able to just buy everyone that they want to. Now, a separate issue is I think players are underpaid. I do, and I think that's people think that's crazy, but I do believe players are underpaid, and I wish they'd get paid a lot more. But with the structure that we have in a salary cap, I like roster building. I like that aspect of it.
Well, look at everything the Chiefs have had to do to keep Patrick Mahomes, keep some of those. You can't keep them all, and they showed it. Tyreek Hill's now gone. I think that's even improved Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. I think it's helped him get even better than what he already was. So yeah, no, I mean, you can't keep them all. So I understand where you're coming from that, and I completely agree with that. Moving now to the offensive line of the Raiders, how do you feel like have they gotten any better? Have they improved since the last time the Chargers last played them in Week 1? Obviously.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this offensive line is it's a work in progress for sure, and they haven't. The first 5-6 games of the year, they didn't have the same lineup twice, and some of that was injury, but a lot of it was just trying to find the right mix of guys. And I think they found it. I think one of the things about the offensive line right now, as it's constructed, is the sum is greater than the parts. Which if you take every guy individually, I don't think anybody's really blowing you away or impressing you. But as a collective unit, they figured it out, and part of it is scheme. I think the Patriots / Josh McDaniel scheme has kind of come to fruition and helped them out. Part of it is Josh Jacobs just making them look better. In the running game, very underrated is that with Darren Waller out, who obviously is a very elite pass catcher, and Foster Moreau playing a lot more tight end, he's a pretty good blocker. And Jakob Johnson, the fullback, not a lot of teams employ a fullback all the time, but the Raiders do. And not all the time, but they very often have a fullback on the field. And Jakob Johnson's been great. If you go back and watch the 86-yard Josh Jacobs run in overtime, perfect example of just how good Jakob Johnson is at getting in the hole, clearing out space, taking a guy out, and just allowing Jacobs to run behind him. So you've got more than just the offensive line contributing in the blocking, and I think it's made it better. And pass protection, they've been getting a little bit better. The run game, certainly they've gotten a lot better over the course of the season. So they're, nobody's going to mistake them for an elite unit for sure, but they're more than good enough to get the job done. And I think that's what this team wanted. When you invest as heavily as they did, quarterback, receivers, tight end, running backs, you're not going to be, again, this is roster construction that we're talking about. You can't pay everybody. So they chose to, invest everywhere else. And if you have all those skilled players, your offensive line just has to be good. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be elite. And I think they're getting to that point where they're good.
How do you feel like, ever since Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller went down, how do you feel like Derek Carr's done in spreading the football, or is it just Devontae Adams?
He spread the football to somewhere between 1 and 7, and that being Devontae Adams' number 17. That's where he spreads the football to. I know we had a story the other day by one of my colleagues, Sam Gordon, that talked about some of the complementary players and how important that is. And, you're not going to be, great. And you're not going to be even a good team until you get the other guys stepping up. And in that Denver game, the victory over them, the game tying drive late in regulation, there was a big catch by Keelan Cole. There was a big catch by Foster Moreau, who I just mentioned a second ago. Those guys made big plays, and that was great. But it was also, a vast majority of the targets before that went to Devontae Adams, and obviously the game winner in that game went to Devontae Adams. So it's been get the ball to Devontae early, get the ball to Devontae often, and then every once in a while another guy steps up and makes a play. But I think when you have a guy that good, that is kind of okay. Now, he's not getting 1,000 targets. What, he gets 71 targets in the game against the Chargers the first time around? He's not getting that. But he's getting a vast majority of them, and I think that makes it better. It's not a bad play when you try to throw the ball to Devontae Adams. It's, even if it's not complete, you gave it a shot. So I think that they've kind of figured that part of it out.
Going to the defense, I know that they've had a lot of moving pieces. They recently added Jerry Tillery from the Chargers.
Interesting fella, Jerry Tillery.
Yeah. How do you feel like the defense has performed these last couple of weeks?
Statistically not good. And I think that's been kind of the consistent theme throughout the year. The numbers don't look good. But I think one of the things that's been missed about this defense when you just look from the outside and say, well, they might be the worst defense in the league. And they're not far off. They're pretty close to that. but they do have one absolutely elite player, and one more nod for the building trend of voting Max Crosby Defensive Player of the Year. I would say it's hard to vote against him at this point. Like I don't see anybody wrecking plays as consistently as he does. He's not quite what Aaron Donald's been the last couple of years, but he's not that far off either. And the improvement that he's made in the run game is just, it's been crazy to watch, because I was somebody who after his rookie year said, hey, that guy is a great pass rusher, but you can't have him on the field all the time because he is such a liability against the run. Not anymore. He shut me up. I mean, he
must have read your story.
Yeah, I think he might have actually.
He's
been incredible.
He put it on his fridge, went Rocky Balboa, got the eggs out, chugged the eggs, went out running every morning.
Yeah, I mean, he's been incredible. And look, he was a liability against the run. And I think that speaks a lot to him, that he was. That's something that, as somebody who's a pass rusher, if you're going to get 10, 12 sacks a year, nobody's really going to hold it against you that you're bad against the run. That's the reality of it. And he didn't care. He said, I'm going to go and I'm going to get better in that area that doesn't get a claim, that people don't talk about, that's not on a stat sheet. And I think that's an absolute, credit to his character and who he is as a football player. So he's gotten a lot better, and they just need guys to contribute around him. And you saw it a little bit last week. They got some pressure up the middle. Chandler Jones got 8 hurries last week. That was like, what? Where did that come from? That was something that's been very much missing from this team. Nate Hobbs being out at corner, he should be back this week, which is a huge boost to the defense. But what I was getting at the beginning was that statistically they're not good, and you can move the ball on them for sure. But one of the things they've been pretty consistent at this season is, hey, you might get 30 against them, but at the end of the game, they're going to get a stop or two that's going to put the offense in a position to potentially win. And the first 6 times, I know it's been a big stat that was out there. The first 6 times that first 6 losses of the year, first 7 losses of the year, 6 times the Raiders had the ball with a chance to win or tie on the last drive of the game, and they failed all 6 times. And it was actually like 11 drives, because some of the games they had twice. But really at the end of the game, last possession, 6 times chance to win or tie, and they failed all 6 times, including the first game against the Chargers, where they were Chargers were pulling away. The Raiders rallied back. The defense stepped up in the second half, and the Raiders had the ball with a chance to take the lead, and they didn't. And so as much as people want to blame the defense and say the defense has struggled, the defense made plays late in games that gave the offense a chance. And they weren't able to. In the last 2 games, same things happened against the Seahawks, 34 points, but 2 straight stops in the fourth quarter and overtime to give the offense a chance. So I think the defense is easy to pick on, but I think if you kind of look inside a little bit, you see that there's some other factors at play, and the fact that they've given them a chance.
That's what's happened with the Chargers defense as well. The last few weeks, the defense, they might give up touchdowns, they might give up everything, but at the end of the game, they're able to hold it on and maybe give their guys an opportunity.
Don't get me started on the Chargers issues, because I absolutely firmly believe that if 2021 Brandon Staley was coaching, this team would have a very, very much better record.
You think he needs to go back to? That's what I said on the podcast on Sunday. I'm like, I feel like that's what they've been missing this season, is the aggressive. I'm not saying reckless. I'm not saying go for it on every 4th down or whatever, but I feel like they need to go back to him being aggressive, him picking and choosing. They want to make the playoffs at the end of this, they want to make the playoffs this season. I think he's going to need to be more aggressive when it comes to some of those 4th down and 2-point conversions, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and also we need to change the way we talk about those things too. And I've made this case before, maybe with you, I'm not sure. But for people watching that haven't heard it before, I know I'm on an island with this, but I think we should talk about it in other terms. Like, if you go for it on a 4th and 1, you're being cautious. You're not being aggressive or risky. You're being cautious because it's what you're supposed to do to give your team a better chance to win. The cautious thing is to go for it. The risky, aggressive thing is to punt, because you're actually giving your team a less chance to win. So that's aggressive and risky. And it's so, I know that sounds confusing and it's tough to kind of figure out, but when you are doing the right thing in terms of increasing your win percentage, that's cautious and smart. and not risky and aggressive. So
Think about it.
hopefully we can get to that point.
No, and think about it. Like last year, you and I were both there. So was Gilbert. That Sunday night game. If the chart, I thought when Mike Williams scored that touchdown to tie the game or to put them 1 point behind, I thought Staley's going to go for 2 and end it right here, no matter what. Staley ends up kicking it. They go into overtime. They struggle, and obviously the Raiders end up making the kick to win the game. I thought Staley already had that defense on their toes, breathing heavy. I thought if he would have gone for 2, they would have gone in no matter what, because I thought the Raiders were already exhausted. So I completely agree with you. I think that sometimes going for it on 4th and 1 is not as bad as what people think it is. And who are you going to trust? Your defense that's exhausted, has taken a beating, or Justin Herbert, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league? I mean, obviously, you're going to go most of the time. You're going to go for your quarterback, who's one of the best in the league. Put it in his hand. Let him decide the fate of the game.
And think about, I mean, this is a very simplistic way of looking at it, but I don't care. I'm trying to put it in better terms. But if a defense has an offense in 3rd and 7, right, and the offense picks up like 6.5 yards, you see the defense going nuts and celebrating and high-fiving because they stopped them short. Why?
Up.
Because we're gonna get the ball back. They're gonna punt.
Exactly.
The defense wants you to punt. That means you should probably go for it. Like
your quarterback is 6'6". You're telling me he can't pick up half a yard?
Yeah, and I don't even mean the Chargers. I mean anybody in general.
I know.
But yeah, I mean it's just silly. Now, oftentimes I have a problem with some of the play calls that coaches have on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2. But that's a different question than the whether you should go for it or not. That's a totally different thing. And by the way, while I'm on this subject, because it is one of my favorite subjects, along with quarterback should count on the salary cap, the people who, when you go for it on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 or make a decision like that, who then when you don't get it are like, well, that was the wrong decision. You are the worst kind of person in the entire world. A decision is correct or incorrect based on the decision before it ever happens. You can't. I mean, you can, because you can do whatever you want, but you can't after it fails or succeeds come out and say that. And I mentioned this in a game I was watching the other day. I put it on Twitter. A team went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 34, like in the second quarter. It was the right decision, and they got it. And I didn't see anybody on Twitter like complaining about the decision, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you're watching a game and somebody goes for it on 4th and 1, like their own 44, and they don't get it, people are like, "Oh, so dumb, so dumb." Well, then shouldn't those same people be saying "so dumb" when you actually get it?
Exactly.
Because the decision is right or wrong on the decision; it's not on the outcome. And it's been said that results-based thinkers are the lowest form of intellect, and I think that's true. Like you don't come back in retrospect and say it was right or wrong. You have to say it before the play is starting. And I think that's one thing that we have to really start fixing in our dialogue about football.
I completely agree with you. See, that's why we get along so well. Last two questions for you. One, how do you feel like Josh McDaniels is being viewed overall by the organization, by fans, by the player? What's your overall assessment of Josh McDaniels?
I mean, I think that's, again, kind of similar in that, when they win, everything's great. And when they lose, he's the worst coach on the planet. Look, you need time. And I think McDaniels and Ziegler made a miscalculation at the beginning of the season by kind of going all in with this team. I didn't think the team was good last year. I think a lot of the underlying data would tell you the team was not good, even though they went to the playoffs. They had a lot of, several wins against backup quarterbacks. They had several kind of fluky outcomes at the end of games. There was a lot of chances for them to be a lot worse than they were, and they kind of escaped and made the playoffs. And it made it, I've been referring to that playoff run as fool's gold, where this new administration takes over and they're like, we've got a playoff team. We just add a Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones, and that's a Super Bowl contender. Well, it just wasn't the case. There wasn't the pieces around them to make them a Super Bowl contender. So I think they were fooled. They shouldn't have done that. And if they would have come in and built the team the way I thought they should, which is kind of sell off some of their assets, acquire some draft picks, build for 2-3 years down the road when they can really be a force, they went all in. And so you're going to be judged on the fact that you went all in, and you have to be better. If you're going to trade first round and second round picks for Devontae Adams, and listen, that's worked out. Devontae Adams has been great. but sign Chandler Jones. Like, those are moves you make when you're a player or two away from a Super Bowl. That's not where they were. So they created the expectations that they are falling short of. And I think that they should have kind of built a different way, and they didn't. So right now they're going to be judged on that. And I think there's a lot of anger and frustration from fans that are saying, hey, how'd you take a playoff team and turn them into 4-7? But I think they are building towards something down the road. And I think that they can be better, and people will, move on from that. But I think if you look at what the players, some of the players' reactions to these last couple of wins, there's been a real love and a real bonding of this team. So I think that's getting a little bit better and improving. And look, Raiders fans yesterday, when one of the weirdest plays that we've ever seen in a game, a Seahawks player running off the bench and participating in a play on Sunday, which for those people that haven't seen it, go watch the video of that. It's hilarious. But I asked Josh McDaniels about that at the presser and said, what even happens from here? Does the league apologize? Do they call you and say, hey, we shouldn't have let that happen? What is that? And he said, hey, we're the Raiders. Those things happen to us. So that really endeared him to fans. I mean, I think it's kind of silly, but fans were like, yeah, he gets it. We're screwed over by the league. That's great. So he's endearing himself in those ways. He, the first thing he said when he took the job was, Tom Brady was a fumble, which I don't know that he believes that, but it was the first thing he said, and it endeared him to fans. So he knows how to play the game, which is something he didn't really in Denver in his first job. And that's, people I've talked to around there will say that. I think he's shown some maturity and some development in his persona and his personality, and learns how to deal with people better. And once the wins come, all the other, acceptance and happiness will come with it.
My last final two right now. Do you think Derek Carr's playing for his job in these final 6 games of the season, or do you feel like he'll be back?
If they haven't made up their mind now, there's something wrong, I think. I mean, I don't know what their decision is.
Yeah.
If you would ask me 2 weeks ago, I said there's no chance he's back next year. If he can rally them, in a frustrating season where they, coming off a playoff berth, they start 2-7, things were spiraling out of control. Like I said, it was kind of getting ugly in the locker room, and he can put this team together enough to, win the locker room back and guide them to, 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7 down the stretch again. I think that speaks a lot to, his leadership and that, kind of quality that you can't put your finger on, and that you can't measure in any stats. And I think that might go a long way to them maybe keeping him around. Also, if it depends what they can get, right? I mean, who's available? Do they want Jimmy Garoppolo because they worked with him in the past and they thought, that they could work with him again? Do they?
Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers is the rumor out there. I was actually gonna go with another one, who's, supposedly Josh McDaniels' best friend in all of football, Tom Brady.
Patrick Brady Jr.
Yeah. Tom Brady, who wanted to come here before and, was blocked by that, the blanker that he said on the shop, which was Derek Carr. Does that happen? I don't know. Who's available? Who wants to play here? Who can they get? I think will determine a lot. And, like I said, if they had a top 3 pick, like 2 weeks ago, they would have been picking in the top 3.
Yeah.
Then you got to take one of those quarterbacks probably. And now they're not going to be in the top 3. They probably don't have a chance on one of the first round quarterbacks. So maybe that changes the equation as well.
Last one for me. Who wins the World Cup?
In 2026, USA.
This guy. I'm talking about this year.
Who cares about this year? It's all about building to 2026.
I know you're watching.
I'm watching every single second of every single game.
I know.
I would say England might win it. France looks really good, though.
Coming home.
France looks really good.
Man, France, injury after
Despite
injury, and they
injury.
keep on surviving it, and they're playing like even better.
It doesn't matter. Their backups could beat almost anybody in the world.
Incredible how stacked they are. It's incredible.
They're sick. They look really good.
So you're gonna go France?
I think I'll go France. But
Okay.
I think US beats Netherlands though.
This guy.
And I'll tell you this. I actually had this discussion earlier on the radio show here in town. The US does have one somewhat, redeeming thing if you're looking at them to make a run here. I think that they'll be very, very, very dangerous in shootouts. And if they can survive and they could play for draws, and they'll have to play for 120 minutes, not 90 anymore for draws. But if they can survive, I think they can be really dangerous at shootouts.
The only issue with me is that they're not scoring any goals, and that's kind of a little dangerous, especially when you get into these games. Like if you have to play the Netherlands and some of these other guys, because I mean, you barely put up one against Iran, you put up one against Wales, and then against England you zeroed out. So it's a dangerous game to play, but their defense looks pretty good. But I want to see a little bit more. I want to see what against Netherlands is going to tell you a lot about what kind of team they have. But I agree with you, in 2026. These guys are going to be ferocious. Like they're going to be pretty damn good, especially. But my only problem is I don't know what the hell's going on with Gio Reyna and the coach. I mean, and Berhalter, something must have happened, because the fact that he's not playing him is, to me, crazy.
Yeah, I still think it's injury, but it is weird because
that's the craziest part. Reyna said, "I'm fine." Dude, why are you like contradicting what your coach said? If he's like, there's a reason why he's not playing you. So
but he put him in at the end of the game. So if he had a real problem with him, I don't know if he would have put him in at the end of the England game. But he did put him out on the field
or he didn't play against Iran.
Yeah, so for like 6 minutes he put him out there.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's all strange. But thank you so much, Adam Hill. You gave us a lot of info about the Raiders, and then obviously the new terminology that people should be using to describing what Brandon Staley does in his coaching.
I'm fighting an uphill battle with that one. I know it. I've been trying this for like 3 years and nobody's buying it. So hopefully,
but they keep fighting the good fight. I'm behind you. I'm all with it. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining. You're a compa for life, and we appreciate you.
You didn't want to talk about my my interview with DJ?
Oh, that's off camera. That's off camera what we're going to talk about. All right, thank you, Adam. Dan, great stuff from Adam as always. Always learning some good stuff from him. We actually just saw him a couple of weeks ago when UNLV played San Diego State. Right. Here in San Diego, we went to LaBella's Pizza, local pizza shop, and hung out with him and watched a couple of games and hung out. So Adam's one of our favorite guys. Definitely a great guy.
What's propelling the Raiders on this 2-game win streak, Frau?
What?
The belief that Joe Morley has in this team. I saw one of his TikToks right now, and it was hilarious. The way he starts predicting or doing something about the scheduling. He's like, Raiders! And that's how he always ends it. That always cracks me up, dude.
You're talking about Joe Morley?
Yeah, that's what I said. Joe Morley, yeah. His belief is what's pushing this team forward. I wish I had his confidence, dude.
Joe Morley needs to go somewhere with it, because he just all right. So obviously, like we said, Raiders, Chargers this week. Now let's go with another view. Dan, you're going to talk to us about the defense. Obviously, like Adam Hill said, there's literally only one all-pro player on that defense, and his name is Maxx Crosby. It seems like nobody else is at his level. So, Dan, let's talk a little bit about Maxx Crosby. Can you break this down right here with him?
Yeah, look at that. He's in a 2-point stance. He's extending. The reason you want to extend sometimes is because it reduces the power that the offensive lineman has, right? If you extend your arms like this as a defensive player, the lineman also has to extend, and he has no power because he's not flexed, right? Your bench press is from in here, right? When you're all the way extended, you have no power. So that's the thing. And then if the lineman starts to lean, he shucks him. So what does he do here? He starts to read him. You could tell, well, it's Noah Fant. His footwork's not going to be great. Look how he's going back and around, runs into somebody. Well, actually, Noah Fant blocked him pretty well.
It's pretty crazy how fast he is, though. Like to be in this pile right here with these guys and to be able to catch Geno Smith is pretty crazy.
Yeah. He's a good player when he goes up against the Chargers second string tackles, but Sean Slater's got his number over there.
All right, here's another one.
Yeah, watch. Yeah, here we go. That's the thing, right? The problem is sometimes that I think offensive tackles forget is that there's nothing wrong. Like if some guy's trying to long arm me like that, you bet your ass I'm going to hit the hell out of his wrist so I can re-engage and replace my hands. Because look at the problem, right? He's leaning forward. Right now that tackle is playing Maxx Crosby's game. That's what he wants to do. What you want to do as an offensive tackle is get him uncomfortable. That's why I would slap his hands down. What?
He slid like the damn Rock does when he comes up and does the people's elbow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. look how he's just going back. He's not standing his ground. And that's the biggest problem, right? Because if he stands his ground as he's trying to lean forward and stick out his arm and long arm him, he's going to naturally fall forward right into the offensive tackle. And right there's where you re-engage and establish your power and prowess.
So right now, if you're the offensive line coach of the Chargers, what are you telling? If Trey Pipkins can't go, it's obviously going to be Forrest Sarrell. But what are you telling?
One thing I'm
Pipkins
going to
and
tell him.
Sarrell?
One thing I'm going to tell him that I tell the offensive lineman I coach is, number one, don't piss your pants. Pissing your pants is an involuntary thing that happens when you have so much fear in your body. You naturally, just let everything go.
No
Don't
ass grabbing. No
grab ass rate. Don't piss your pants. And here's the other thing, right? And what I mean by don't piss your pants is an offensive tackle. If he tries to show you speed, remember your fundamentals and kick for depth. Don't play to his game where you start kicking for width, opening up the middle, boom, he spins inside, there's a sack. Don't play his game where you're kicking like hell out there, just almost backpedaling with no power steps, no low center of gravity. You're kicking like crazy when he shows you speed, and boom, here comes the power bull rush, and there's another sack. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna wanna test out his opponent, obviously, with either one of those two types of rush, either the speed to set up the inside move or the speed to set up the bull. And the other one, obviously, he likes to long arm. Obviously, he likes it. I give him a lot of credit because he likes to be physical with his hands. Look how he's hitting them. Look how he's ripping. He has some talent. Obviously, when he plays against people not named Rashawn Slater, I mean, that's a different conversation for another day. Because look, right here, right? Look how he turns his shoulders almost immediately, this offensive tackle. The reason why you don't want offensive tackles turning the shoulder, right? If I'm broad-shouldered like this, super wide frame, right? So I'm just kicking for width. Oh, no, sorry. I'm kicking for depth, right? It makes the edge to go around me a lot wider. As soon as he turns his shoulders, that edge becomes half of what it was, and it's easier for him to get around. Watch, play it one more time. Is this the same play?
No, there's another one.
Oh, okay, there's another one. Let's see what he does here. That's what I would be telling him. You got to be patient when he's out there. Look how he's just playing his game. He's not striking him. That's go back. That's a key thing. For God's sake, you have got to be physical. Just because you're playing offense doesn't mean you can't be physical. Look, no strike. He's turning, no strike, just absorbs him. That's idiotic. You can't do that against premier pass rushers and think you're going to be successful. I hate all that right now. It's good that he's patient, but no strike, and then freaking terrible body position, no anchor. That's terrible. That's a way to get a quarterback killed. Yeah, I don't like that right there. That makes my heart hurt and bleed for now. As an offensive line enthusiast, that is horrendous.
Well, I just saw your boy number 90.
That guy's garbage. Now I can say it. He's garbage. Look, here we go. Oh, blocked by two guys. Look at that. See? Speed. He wants to get around that edge. Look at how he wants to haul ass and get one hand to him. Obviously, the son of Odin ain't no stooge. He's not going to be able to tackle him with one arm, but that's the biggest thing. If he tries to long arm you, you got to knock his hand down and be patient when he's trying to rush outside.
Definitely. And thank you, Dan, for breaking that all down for us. Now let's go to fantasy player. Dan, who are you watching?
This week, let's see. Well, I feel like the easy one would be Josh Jacobs, but I guess let me see who you know what? I'm gonna say Justin Herbert this week. They put up a lot of points against them last week defensively, and that was the Seahawks led by Geno Smith. I think Justin Herbert this week is the fantasy player to watch because if you could put up 30-some points with Geno Smith, imagine what you can do with the son of Odin. But he just needs, some paisan up in the booth to make sure he's calling the right stuff. But I'm going to pick Justin Herbert. He's the fantasy player to watch.
I'm going to go Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, last time these two teams played, he was right there with going into almost halftime. He was right there with Devontae Adams. I think Devontae had like 5 catches for 65 or 70 yards. Keenan Allen had 4 catches for 66 yards. So I'm going to say Keenan Allen comes back, and I think this is going to be Keenan Allen's big game. And I think he has a big game against the Raiders. Who is your X factor?
The X factor. You know what? I guess I talked about it all show. I'm gonna go. The X factor is either Trey Pipkins, actually, no, it's going to be both tackles because Rashawn Slater's not going to be at this game. So Maxx Crosby's dad's not going to be there. So he's going to think, I can run wild and do whatever you want. So I'm going to say Trey Pipkins, forgive me if I butcher the names. It's not on purpose. Forrest Serrell
Forrest Serrell.
Okay, Forrest Serrell and Jameer Salier.
Jamari Salier.
Jamari Salier. All three of those guys are going to be crucial in this game because you saw last year, well, obviously going back to last year in Vegas, you saw last year how, Maxx Crosby was in Justin Herbert's lap almost every play, and you cannot have a freaking repeat of that, dude. That's going to equal disaster if that happens again.
I think this is the game where you need to give another back another chance. I think this could be a big game for Isaiah Spiller. You saw what Kenneth Walker did to the Raiders. Kenneth Walker's a bigger back. I'm not saying that Isaiah Spiller's his size, but I think Isaiah Spiller might do some good if he gets the ball against the Raiders and is able to show what he could do. I think this might be his big breakout game if the Chargers give him a chance. So I'm going to go X Factor. I'm going to go Isaiah Spiller. Dan, what's your prediction?
Chargers are going to win. I think this, like I said, this is a must-win game. I think the Raiders have been very dysfunctional. I know they're on a 2-game win streak, but, I think the Chargers, besides looking on paper, the Chargers have more than the Raiders do. As long as you lock up Devontae, you keep a lid on Josh, it should be your game, but that's a big if. Offensively, obviously, in my mind with Keenan, Josh, and obviously Herbert, Austin, and, if you can get productivity out of Gerald Everett also, that's going to be key. I think the Chargers are going to win, besides my obvious bias.
God, I don't know for what reason I want to lean Raiders just because the Chargers haven't been able to stop the run. But then I think about it, and the defense always comes up with one or two big stops that put the ball back in the Chargers' hands for the Chargers to win it. So I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say Chargers win this game. I think it's too important. Then especially it sets up a big Thursday night or Sunday night game against the Miami Dolphins. So I'll say that the Chargers win this game and they set themselves up for a big game on
Sunday. Are they ahead of their division or is it Buffalo?
It's them right now, but they have a big game.
Buffalo and them are in the playoffs. Patriots are hunting.
No. Yeah. It's the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets. Oh, you're right. The Jets are in.
The Dolphins and the Bills right now are in.
And the Patriots are hunting.
Damn. Yeah. So it'll definitely going to get interesting. But again, we want to thank Adam Hill for joining Compas, joining What's Up Bolts and checking it out. I want to thank Dan again for breaking that down for us and breaking down the film. Good stuff as always. Always learn a lot. And guys, don't forget to go check out Compas FC. It's a new show, World Cup time. Like Dan was pitching a little while ago.
Let's go.
He's excited for the World Cup. So am I. I've been so excited about it. I know it's a weird time. I know it's yeah. I know it's a weird time right now, especially because it's the end of the football season and everything. But enjoy the World Cup. It's so much fun. It only happens every 4 years. In 4 years, it's going to be here in the United States. It's going to in Mexico and Canada. It's going to be much fun to have it here.
We're going.
Also, don't forget to check out House of Horns. Vic, the producer, will not be is not there, so I'll be filling in for him. I'm tagging in. Gilbert and I will be doing that together. That'll be a lot of fun. This is the fun part about it. I get to ask Gilbert a lot of questions about the Rams. I like to learn. I want to learn more, and Gilbert obviously
has all the info. Talk, so don't worry about it.
So that's true. And guys, don't forget to go check out Combat Compas. We will have some stuff moving forward. We're gonna have some more stuff on combat sports. The thing is, the NFL season's coming down to the nitty and gritty. So obviously right now is when Gilbert and I are supposed to have our best work out there. So but we definitely appreciate you guys so much. We appreciate you guys checking out all the Compa shows. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Be a compa, tell a compa, let them know, hey, there's this cool show. And don't forget to check out the regular Compas on the Beat where we broke down
That's
Are
right.
the Cincinnati Bengals starting to revive themselves, and are they
Yep.
going to be the ones that make it all the way back to the Super Bowl and not the Rams? Are
That's for damn sure they ain't going.
are the Philadelphia Eagles still legit? Kansas City, how are they doing? So we break it all down on Combas on the Beat, and then obviously we break down other stuff like who's our favorite WWE wrestler turned movie star, our favorite Steven Spielberg movie. We have it all. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for rocking with us. Don't forget, as soon as the game is done on Sunday, Dan and Dago and I will jump on and we'll give you our thoughts on the game. We appreciate you guys so much. Again, don't forget, be a compa, tell a compa.